have Tony on a Tuesday. Summer schedule scattered about, but to this week he's doing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and off on Thursday and Friday, and we will have 2-hour shows. Then, this is the start of, really, for many, the sports calendar. Football is going to take over. We're going to be dominated by football from now until the middle of February at the Super Bowl. Yeah, other sports will come along, and the training camp will open sooner rather than later for the Capitals, and the Wizards won't be far behind, and we'll have college football followed by college basketball. But it's the NFL. And my friend Larry Weissman many years ago told me, Lord Football appears, and everything else stands down. And today the Commanders open up training camp. All 32 teams are now underway, and we will have exhibition games starting soon. I think the Hall of Fame game, I don't think it's this week, but maybe it's next week. And the Commanders will play their first exhibition game on the 13th, which is a Saturday at home, and it's against, of course, Carolina, because everything with this coaching staff stems from Carolina. But it's going to be a 1 o'clock game on a Saturday afternoon. If it's anything like last Saturday, that's going to be brutal. Maybe it won't be 98 degrees or whatever it was, but even if it's in the mid to high 80s, that's going to be rough to sit out there and watch really bad football. But that's the plan, and then they play 2 exhibition games on the road, and the season starts September 11th against Jacksonville. With this organization, there is always more important off-the-field news than on-the-field news. I mean, there's some things we're going to find out today about the Chases. Chase Young and Chase Roulier are coming off knee injuries, plus Logan Thomas, same thing, knee injury. It's possible that all 3 of them will start the season on the physically unable to perform list, and questions are whether they'll be available for the opening game. But by and large, training camp is a lot of hyped nothing. And what we're going to hear from all the reporters who are out covering this with their tweets, oh my, what a spot-on pass by Carson Wentz. Wow, did you see that? Did you see Terry McLaurin come out of his break and the ball was right there? Oh, whoa, and they've been selling this. Believe me, they've been selling this hard off season, that Wentz is the savior. We'll see, and we really won't see until September. We're not going to find out in what's left of July and in August. We're going to find out September 11th when they take the field against Jacksonville here and how good he looks. Will the owner be there on September 11th? And maybe that question gets answered on Thursday, and this news broke yesterday, as it's required for the House Committee on Oversight and Reform to post a notice of a deposition 3 days in advance with the Office of the House of Representatives. And so this was posted yesterday, and this is really all the information that the reporters are working off of. But Dan Snyder will appear by Zoom at 8 a.m. on Thursday. That's tomorrow. He is due to, today's Tuesday, so it'll be the 28th, Thursday, 2 days from now. He will appear by Zoom at 8 a.m., which I guess is 2 in the afternoon in Israel, where his yacht supposedly is. The question is he appearing by subpoena, or is he appearing voluntarily? And there's a huge difference here, because if he appears voluntarily, then he doesn't have to answer certain questions. If he appears under subpoena, under oath, then he is required to answer these questions honestly. So that's still, and maybe it's still being negotiated, I don't know. But I guess the House Oversight Committee on Reform has accepted Dan Snyder's agreement to appear. The question is, will it be under subpoena or will it be voluntary? My guess is going to be voluntary. And what his lawyer has said to them, we just couldn't appear when Roger Goodell did his appearance in June. We were tied up then, but we're going to be free on Thursday. So we'll just, what you wanted us to do in June, we're going to appear voluntarily. And there's no really a need for a subpoena. We don't have to have a subpoena. We're agreeing to what you asked us to do in June. We just couldn't do it then. We're going to do it now. So we'll see where that goes. And I don't think this is going to be broadcast live. I don't think this is going to be anything like what we had with Roger Goodell. I think this is going to be something that will be done behind closed doors, and we'll get the transcript of it, but not the recording of it, and we'll have to wait and see. But I'm not holding my breath on anything major there. I don't think that Dan Snyder is going to give us any real insight on what the committee has been investigating, these allegations by Tiffany Johnston that he put his hand on her knee during a team dinner and tried to push her towards his limousine, and other things that are being investigated by the committee. We're also waiting for the report from Mary Jo White from the league, the investigation of that. And you would think, on the eve of training camp, not that, Snyder's status is that important for business for the team, but you would think that we'd have something by now, and we don't. And, maybe this becomes a Friday afternoon news dump with training camps well underway and the great distraction which the NFL likes to have of people not really paying attention to this stuff. But who knows? It's very difficult to say. The Nationals got a win last night. They got a win in Los Angeles, 4-1. They had a 4-run fifth inning, which was capped off by a 2-run triple by Juan Soto. Now, I've been listening to the baseball reporters on this, guys like Jeff Passan and Buster Olney and others, and as of yesterday, the leaders in the clubhouse to land Juan Soto seem to be San Diego and St. Louis. But there seems to be a belief in Los Angeles that the Dodgers are going to get him. Maybe because they're the big bad Dodgers and they get anybody they want. And they pretty much print money. Here they had a Monday night game against the worst team in baseball in the Nationals, and they drew 48,000 people. And many in that crowd of 48,000 were cheering as Juan Soto came to the plate in the first inning, and what they were cheering was, "Future Dodger, future Dodger." And this came after Soto was in the clubhouse before the game, and the media has access until about like a half an hour before the game. And there was question after question along the lines of, it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to the Dodgers. Mark Zuckerman put out a tweet about that last night, and he was dodging questions, Mark said, for about 4 minutes on this. But he did have sort of an interesting flex. You know that he won the home run derby in the same place last week at the All-Star game a week ago last night. And knowing that he would be back, I don't, it seemed to me that if you win the trophy for the home run derby, that you have that ship back home, that you don't have to worry about it. But he actually left it in the visitors' clubhouse. It was sitting there. And was that some sort of a message that the home run trophy should make its home here? I don't know. It just leaves some questions that probably didn't need to be there had he just had it shipped home, but he didn't do that. So there was the trophy sitting right there in the visitors' clubhouse, sitting on a trunk in the middle of the room with a gold link chain wrapped around it, Derby champ spelled out in platinum. Don't forget about me because I may be here. Now, who knows what's going to happen. But the Nationals did win. It's only their fourth win this month, and it broke an 11-game home win streak for the Dodgers. So we have that from last night to chew on, and the speculation continues. But 6 o'clock, 1 week from tonight, exactly 1 week from tonight, is the trade deadline. And again, I would be very surprised if he's not dealt. I would expect him to go someplace. There's a football story out there that I'm sure as the day goes on is going to pick up a lot of momentum on the talk shows. I would think, I'm guessing, I don't know this, but I'm guessing this is going to lead PTI tonight because this is exactly the kind of story that Tony and Mike would chew on. Kyler Murray, as you know, the quarterback for the Cardinals, signed an extension last week to his contract. He was coming to the end of his rookie deal, and the contract is worth up to $230 million with about $105 million guaranteed and $160 million guaranteed for injury. So he's going to make over $100 million no matter what on this deal. There's a clause in there, clause that was reported yesterday by the NFL Network. And this, to me, is absolutely stunning. The contract includes an addendum, they're calling it, a clause, addendum, requires him to study film for 4 hours a week during the season to stay in compliance with the new deal. It's called, and boy, does this sound demeaning, the Independent Study addendum. According to the contract, Murray will need to study material provided for him by the club in order to prepare for the next game. Murray will receive credit for completing his film study according to the contract. Credit. However, the addendum states the time that Murray spends in mandatory meetings studying does not count, and that Murray also won't receive credit if he does not, quote, personally study the provided material in good faith. The addendum also states that Murray will not get credit if he's not studying or watching the material while it plays on his tablet if he's doing something that can distract him or draw his attention elsewhere where the material is playing, such as video games, watching TV, or browsing the internet. I guess they can monitor how he's studying this off his tablet, but how would they know if he's watching TV or, eating or whatever he's doing, unless they have cameras installed in his house, surveillance cameras? Failure to meet the addendum's requirements will mean Murray will be deemed to be in default of his contract per wording. He could lose $100 million if he's not studying. This may stem from an interview that he gave with the New York Times last year. And he said, quote, "I'm not one of those guys that's going to sit there and kill myself watching film. I don't sit there for 24 hours and break down this team and that team and watch every game because in my head, I see so much." Meaning, I make it happen on the field. I'm not a film study guy. Well, there's another guy like that named Jamarcus Russell, who also didn't study film after he was the number one pick of the Raiders some years ago. And as the story goes, the team said, "Here, Jamarcus, take this home, study this film tonight, and let's talk about it tomorrow." And he said, "Sure." And he took it home, and he came back the next day, and he was asked, "Did you watch that?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." Turned out they'd given him a blank tape or a blank disc, whatever it was. So I don't think Kyler Murray's in that category, but to me, there's two elements of this. One is leadership. They have, with this, seemingly usurped his leadership. They're saying to the rest of the team, "Hey, your quarterback, the most important position in sports, the most important player on the team, isn't bothering to put in the time to study film. So we've had to put something in his contract that requires him to watch film." The stories of these veteran quarterbacks are legendary, that nobody beats Tom Brady into the facility. When Alex Smith was here and they were trying to get Dwayne Haskins, the late Dwayne Haskins, on board, they would say, "Hey, Alex is here 6 a.m. He doesn't even know whether he's going to be able to play again. He's coming back from the broken leg, and you're not putting in the time," which is what ultimately led to his benching. There's that. And then there's this racist element to this. Kyler Murray's a black quarterback. And what they used to say about black quarterbacks, oh, they're not smart enough to hold down the position. And now they're saying to Kyler Murray, "You're not responsible enough to study film on your own, so we're going to have to put it in the contract, and we're going to give it a clause called the Independent Study Addendum." Whew! This to me is very, very serious stuff. I don't know why the agent and Kyler Murray agreed to this and signed it, and B, what about the Players Association? What's next if teams are allowed to do this? How is this able to fly? How does this work? And then we have another black quarterback, Lamar Jackson, who is going through an odd contract waltz in Baltimore. I mean, I don't know why they haven't sat down and worked out an extension, because everything you hear from the Ravens is that they want to sign him to an extension. He doesn't have an agent. He's dragging his feet on that. And now this. And this is something that may have come from somebody in the organization. We don't know. Mike Sando put out a list of quarterback tiers, and there was an item in The Athletic about this, about a quote about Lamar Jackson from an unnamed defensive coordinator. And this is what the unnamed defensive coordinator said about Lamar Jackson. "If he has to pass to win the game, they ain't winning the game. He's so unique as an athlete, and he's a really good football player, but I don't care if he wins the league MVP 12 times. I don't think he'll ever be a number one as a quarterback. He has to be a number one as a football player, but not as a quarterback. So many games come down to 2-minute, and that's why they have a hard time advancing even when they are good on defense. Playoffs are tight. You have to be able to throw the ball, and he is just so inconsistent at throwing the ball. It's hit or miss. Okay, his playoff record isn't good. Not the only one who hasn't had that. And maybe his passing performances haven't been good at the end of playoff games, but that's another code thing there. An athlete. He's so unique as an athlete. He's a really good football player, not a number one as a quarterback. So while we seemingly have made great strides for African-American quarterbacks, there was a time not that long ago where great African-American quarterbacks didn't even get a chance to play. Warren Moon, who's in the Hall of Fame, had to spend, I think, 5 years in Canada before he got his opportunity with the Houston Oilers. And how far advanced are we from that, which goes back, I think Warren Moon finished college in 1978, so that's 44 years ago? How far have we come? Yes, African-American quarterbacks get a chance to play, and they can make big money, as we just saw with the Kyler Murray extension. But they're saying to them, hey, you're still not smart enough to do the position. We got to put a clause in your contract to get you to study, because we're not really sure that you're putting in the time here. We got to monitor. We don't trust you. We've put money into you to be our long-term quarterback, but we have to keep an eye on you. Because even though we're giving you big money, we don't really want to do it. But there are so few of players of your skill level that we're going to do it. But we're going to do it with this so-called addendum here. Yeah, this is not good. Not good at all. And I think it still addresses the racism that goes on at this position. Bill Polian, one of the great personnel people in this business, said about Lamar Jackson when he was coming out of college that he would be better off playing wide receiver. And then he mentioned how small he was. Well, he's 6'3". And, maybe that's Polian at the end of his run when he lost his fastball. But that's thinking that goes on. And frankly, it's disgusting. And to me, this clause in the contract for Kyler Murray that he's getting paid to study, that's mind-blowing. That's really mind-blowing. And we'll see where this goes, but I think this is just the tip of it. Story broke, I think, late yesterday afternoon, and I think it's going to pick up steam throughout the day as it goes through all the debate shows. Training camps are open. That's a little bit of a distraction, but this, to me, is an enormous story. Coming up next, this is the perfect storm. Incredible interview subject who's generally honest and maybe the greatest sports interviewer in the business, in Dan Patrick, getting to the bottom, and Patrick is great on this, as you're going to hear, getting to the bottom of Charles Barkley's dance with the LIV Tour and what this is all about. We'll get to that next. It's the Andy Pollin Hour, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Hour on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
We got a Tony show coming up at 11 o'clock today. Shortly in this show, shortly ahead, just ahead on this show, a Mickey Mantle card is going up for auction. The number it's expected to sell for is mind-blowing. We'll talk about that in about 20 minutes. But yesterday, Dan Patrick had Charles Barkley on. Now, Barkley is dancing with the LIV Tour. He's already confirmed that he's had dinner with Greg Norman. He claims that there was no offer made at the time of the dinner. But he is going to be playing in the Pro-Am event for the tour event that's going to take place at Trump's Club in New Jersey this weekend. So he's going to play on Thursday at this event. And what you're going to hear is one of the most compelling interview subjects, because Barkley's great, whether he's being interviewed, whether he's on TV. He just gets it. And you'll hear at one point, Patrick, who knows TV inside and out, says Barkley is maybe the most underpaid analyst in the business. He's that good. And what this is about is, if you get the gist of it from me in this conversation, which was about 20 minutes, I'm going to play 3 chunks of it. In this conversation, it sounds like Barkley is saying everybody has his price. Now, he's not, going to stand on a box and say the LIV Tour is evil. That's whether he signs with them or not. Well, obviously, if he signs with them, he's not going to say that. But even if he doesn't sign with them, he's not going to say that. But he is weighing a lot of things, like the popularity that he's built up, which is enormous, and all the commercials that he has, those will go away. He says that. But the takeaway for me is he has his price, which is, something I can't respect from Charles Barkley. But listen to Barkley and listen just as much to Dan Patrick, who asks every pertinent question about this decision that Charles Barkley is about to make. The decision to take the money to go to the LIV Tour or stay where he is handsomely paid for Turner, the pregame and postgame show that he does for the NBA, plus all the commercials. This is Barkley answering the question, what goes into this decision, whether or not to join the LIV Tour.
Man, I love TNT. I love Ernie, Kenny, and Shaq and everybody who works down there. But if those dudes do something crazy at me, I have to listen. I mean, listen, and I'm not going to get on here and say it's not about the money. Of course it's about the money. I think a bunch of the LIV guys, they're so terrified to say it's about the money. It's all right that everybody's taking a job for money, but they're so afraid that, first of all, people are going to talk bad about you anyway, a certain percentage, but most people I talk to, my close confidant, they're like, no, man, you got to sit down with them, listen what they are offering. And before I know you love TNT, but they're giving guys $200 million, $150 million, $125 million. I'd be stupid not to listen to that conversation.
What kind of offer do you think that it would take for you to leave?
Oh, it would be astronomical.
But like what?
Well, Dan, I'm blessed to make a lot of money.
But let's say you made 25, 30, like $40 million a year. Am I in the ballpark of what you expect to get or you think they'll offer?
I don't know the answer to that question. They know how much money I make. So, because, I have to factor in this, okay? There's a couple things. Number one, I have 3 years left on my TNT deal, okay? And I'm probably going to lose all my commercials. So those are two big things. If I had to lose my TNT gig, that would hurt me a lot. But I'm also going to lose my commercials. And listen, let's be realistic. I'm not sure how the public is going to get about as far as the commercial thing. I might not get commercials anymore because so it's a lot that goes into it. But man, I love my job, but I had to take the meeting.
What did TNT say about you staying there and doing both?
We have not had any conversations, not one. To be honest with you, Dan, they've been very quiet. But this is the thing. LIV has not offered me anything. So everything is really just speculation right now. Like I say, we just had dinner. He asked me, was I interested? I said yes. And he says, I'll get back to you. And I'm planning a Pro-Am Thursday up in New Jersey. But like I say, I'm not, unless they come at me with something crazy, I'm not leaving TNT. I love my job at TNT.
What's the criticism that hurts the most?
Oh, there's no criticism. I don't do with this selective prosecution about things, people, the public. Everybody picks and chooses. I just think it's funny they're more worried about civil rights in Saudi Arabia, a place 99.9% of people in the United States have never been. And all of a sudden they're worried about civil rights in Saudi Arabia. That kind of gives me a chuckle. I said, you don't worry about civil rights of people here in the United States. But all of a sudden when guys start taking money, they're like, well, I'm worried about civil rights in Saudi Arabia. And that just makes me laugh. I said, why don't y'all get worried about civil rights here in the United States? Let's worry about that before we worry about what's going on in Saudi Arabia.
I understand what you're saying about Saudi Arabia and China. I know you're a Nike spokesperson, and with Nike in China. I think the Saudis with 9/11 hits home with people, for a lot of people. I think that's different. People haven't been to China, won't go to China. Haven't been to Saudi Arabia, won't go to Saudi Arabia. 9/11, where 15 of the 18 involved in 9/11 were Saudis.
Yeah.
That's the criticism.
Well, from the 9/11 families.
Yes.
And they have the right to say that, and I understand that. But I don't think the rest of America is thinking like that. Listen, that's a fair criticism for the 9/11 families. That was the worst day in United States history, and I understand that. But I don't think it's fair for them to pin all that on these golfers. That's not fair. I mean, our government still does business over there. And then you talk about these people who ain't never been to China. They buying up all this Chinese stuff. So don't act like, they're going to take the moral high ground. I mean, we can't even get a car in this country because all the chips are made in China. So I don't want to have selected. Like, I understand the 9/11 families. They have the right to have their opinion. But I don't think it's fair to blame these golfers who are just trying to play golf. They're not making a political statement. So, hey, I understand it, but these guys, hey, they're independent contractors, and they have to make money any way they want to, and it's up to them.
All right, so I find Charles to be a bit hypocritical here, as maybe you do. I don't know. When he talks about the civil rights in Saudi Arabia, realize this. He's been outspoken about this, supporting gay and lesbian rights. He has been outspoken about that. That doesn't fly in Saudi Arabia. You can't get away with that. And when he talks about the money and how he would lose his endorsements if he did this, well, you know what? Why aren't you standing on the principle of you should be allowed to do this? Why wouldn't you say to Dan Patrick, no? Why would I lose my endorsements? I'm not doing anything wrong here. I'm just doing something that is going to be very lucrative to me. I mean, he's open about the fact that he would take the job for money. Okay, I respect that to some degree, but don't shed your principles and then just defend them by saying, well, what about the civil rights in this country? Yeah, the civil rights is a problem here, but it's a far worse problem over there. And some of the things that you are freely able to say here, you can't say over there. So, that's how I feel about that. Barkley is entitled to do what he wants to do if he goes there, and I guess he understands that the things that would go along with it. It just seems like at his stage of the game, with the money he makes, and you're going to hear Patrick get into what the dollar is. Patrick did a really good job of honing in on what exactly his salary is at TNT. It seems to me, when you're making that kind of money, that you would never in your life, Barkley's in his late 50s, I guess, maybe even 60s, you'd never have to think about money again. And whether or not you go to the Saudi tour or not. I mean, how much is your life going to improve if you're making 3 times what you're making now? If you're making, and Patrick will get into it, it seems to be in the neighborhood of $20 million a year, and that's, I think, even before the endorsements. So, I mean, how much better can you live on $60 million a year than $20 million? Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe there are things that he wants to do, but it seems like a lot to give up for where he stands now in the culture and where he stands as a broadcaster, going someplace who would, he's, I give him some credit for this. He's doing it just for the money. Now, this is about the LIV Tour. And the defense, well, it's more than just money because they're doing things to grow the game. How so, Charles?
Well, I think they have some interesting concepts. They talked about, the main proponent of the LIV Tour is the team aspect. So I think, and I know that the PGA Tour is actually trying to start a team competition. LIV just got a head start on them. And also at their tournaments, they're really trying to bring in a younger demographic. We talked about at the dinner that the average age of a PGA fan is like 60, 61. This will be my first time going to a tournament. They play loud music. They have people having fun. They're trying to reach to a younger demographic. So I think that would grow the game if they get to a younger demographic because, golf we can't survive on old fans. So like I say, I don't judge these guys for taking the money. Like I say, criticisms come with it. I mean, that's criticisms come with everything. But for me personally, I'm glad I took the meeting. I'm looking forward to playing golf with a couple of my friends Thursday, and I'm just going to play golf. It has nothing to do with politics or anything like that. And if anybody get mad, they'll get over it.
Well, okay. The loud music. it really is that how you're going to draw young fans to the game? Maybe. I don't play golf. I like to watch golf, especially the majors on TV. But turning it into like a beach festival, is that really what it's about? And, it's 54 holes. There have been those who are outspoken about this. No, you got to play the grind, the whole 72, and there's no cut and other things that make this a whole lot different than the competition of the PGA Tour. It's much more of an exhibition. And, yeah, I mean, somebody's going to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to play 15 events a year. Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer, but there's so much more to it than that. And if you are an athlete and if you are a competitor, don't you want more than just what is a money grab? Now, this is the news-making part of this interview. This was where he Patrick hones in on what Barkley is making now and when he will make his decision on whether or not to join the LIV Tour, presumably as a television broadcaster, though, they don't have a TV deal now. They do it on streaming and YouTube and things like that. But this is Barkley with Dan Patrick on the asking price that Barkley has to leave his great gig at TNT and, as he says, probably leave behind the commercials.
There has to be an asking price, right? You said, hey, this is about the money. Right? Is that what this is going to be based on? If Greg Norman comes back and says, here's our offer.
Well, listen. Okay, let me give an example. I know most of the numbers just were reported. I know, somebody say Phil Mickelson got $200 million. I'm like, you take that money. Somebody said Dustin Johnson got $150 million and Bryson and Brooks. I'm like, $150 million to play golf 15 times a year? I have no problem with those guys taking that money. And if they offer me something crazy, I'm going to take it too.
What's crazy?
Well, consider how much money I make now. It would take a really huge number for me to give up my life right now. I mean, I'm not going to give up my life for... I don't like talking about how much money I
make. Okay, so let's say you make $20 million total, endorsements and TNT.
That's fair.
That's fair. I might be a little high on that. Let's say.
Well, just for the record, you're not. Okay, let's get that out the way.
Okay. All right, so I'm in the ballpark. Right?
Yeah, you number one, you sitting on the front row, brother.
Okay, all right. So let's say they come back and they go, we're going to triple
it. And let me tell you, well, next time, if they triple it, and next time I'm on your show,
yeah,
the first question better be, Charles, what are we celebrating at tonight? That should be your first question. That should be your first question if they triple what I'm making now. Your first question should be, hey, Charles, where's the party tonight? And then you can ask me a second question after that.
Okay, but you're more valuable than some of these golfers who are getting – I think you're the most underpaid analyst in sports. You're already generating publicity for the LIV Tour, and you're not even on the LIV Tour. And so you're more valuable than Bryson DeChambeau or Patrick Reed, Dustin Johnson. I mean, that's where if it's not $60 million, then what are you doing? I mean, you're worth that.
I said, Dan, I'm just sitting back waiting. I'm just sitting back waiting. They haven't offered me anything.
I can't believe they haven't made you an offer. If Greg Norman sat down to dinner with you in Atlanta at that Italian restaurant.
Dan, if he made me an offer, I would have made a decision by now.
Well, he might have made an offer and you go, nope. You're going to have to do better than 50.
Well, I'm saying I'm not in a rush. I got a job.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But listen, Dan.
Okay, what's your role on this tour? You don't have a TV deal.
Well, they're going to get a TV deal. I'm pretty sure of that.
With who?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm pretty sure they're going to get a
Greg
TV
Norman
deal.
had to tell you that. You had to
No,
say,
he didn't.
Greg, where are we going to be able to have people see us?
Well, I'll tell you what's really funny. This is how full of crap everybody is. Number one, there's no doubt in my mind TV networks are calling him. They're just afraid to pull the trigger.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you how I know the answer to that question. When the story broke that I was going to meet with Greg, I had 15 or more prominent announcers call me saying, Chuck, I've been talking to LIV. We're scared to pull the trigger. The only one who's actually pulled the trigger is David Faraday.
Yeah.
So I know they've been talking to 10 to 15 to 20 big time. I'm not talking about no local dudes. I'm not talking about no regional dudes. I'm talking about some of the most famous announcers in the world. Call me privately, says, Chuck, what do you think? I said, young man, when they make me an offer, I will be the first to let America know. But they haven't offered me anything. They said, man, we are terrified to go first. And the only guy had the stone to go is David Faraday. But they're talking to, so I know, like I say, he did not tell me a TV deal was imminent, but he says we're talking to networks, and I think they will get a deal. I think they will get a deal by the end of this year. I truly believe that.
What's the time frame? Did Greg Norman say when I'll get back to you?
Well, I'm going to give them a deadline.
What's that going to be?
The deadline's going to be Thursday.
Okay.
I'm planning the Pro-Am Thursday.
When you get ready to tee up, will you know what your future is with the LIV Tour?
No, I don't think he's going to walk up to me. I don't even know if I'm playing morning or afternoon. But at some point, we're going to talk. Okay. I'm not going to keep TNT in limbo.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't think it's fair to them. And you said something interesting. They've gotten plenty of play out of me coming to play up there Thursday.
Yeah.
So I'm not just going to be no show pony. Well, hey, y'all, I got y'all pub for a week. Don't be wasting my time. I'm not going to waste y'all time. But when I leave New Jersey Thursday night, when I leave the golf course, if I don't have an offer in hand, it's over.
Well, it sounds to me like it's over now, that he's going, and the LIV Tour will meet his price. There hasn't been, there's been talk about Phil Mickelson, but that's on the negative side. The side on this, well, there are people who say, oh, Charles, don't do it. This is someone who would really, I think, make them more likable. I said this when this first came out, and if you listen to what Barkley is saying there, he has his price in mind. And he's sort of agreed that if they triple what he's making now, and Patrick has a lot of sources. So I think when he says $20 million, he's talked to somebody in the industry who's got a pretty good idea about what Barkley makes. So $60 million when you're hearing numbers like $200 million being thrown around, and even $500 million when it came to Tiger Woods, who didn't take it, and Tiger can barely play now. He couldn't play 15 events a year, but Charles can certainly broadcast 15 events a year. And if it's $60 million to do that, it sounds like he's going to take it. And, I guess, as they say, it's a free country, and he is fully understanding of the consequences for him personally, not financially, but personally, for doing this. But he's ready to do it. And Barkley has been a guy that has said over the years, oh, come on, get over it. Don't take it so seriously. In this case, he's saying, yeah, I realize you're going to take it seriously. I realize you're not going to like me. But if they come up with a crazy offer, and seemingly to me, $60 million is a crazy offer. Maybe it's not. Maybe he's got another price in mind. But the way that the money's being spent on the LIV Tour, what if he says $100 million? And they say, okay. Yeah, I just don't know. But it's to me, it's kind of sad, but I also understand it. I understand how people take jobs for money. I've never been in a position to really do that. When I've taken another job, sometimes it's been for more money, but it wasn't a situation where I was already making a lot of money and didn't want to leave them. There was a situation where it was opportunity and money. In this particular case, this is not opportunity, because he's got the plum jobs. He's got the great commercials. He's got the greatest job in studio history, really. This is the greatest pre and post-game show ever that he does with Kenny and Shaq and Ernie. That's a great show, and he's the star of it, I think. You could argue, but I think he's the star of it. And he's going to take something for money, and far be it from most of us to criticize that, but it sounds like by Thursday afternoon, story will be out Charles Barkley is leaving to go to the LIV Tour. Coming up next, the Mickey Mantle card. Want to guess how much they expected to sell for? Whew. Get to that next. It's the Andy Pollin Hour, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Hour on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
We got a Tony show coming up in about 15 minutes, and we got 2-hour shows coming up Thursday and Friday because of a little bit of a summer schedule change for this week for Tony. Just this week, because he said yesterday they may be a little bit scrambled in the month of August as they move things around for vacation and so forth. You know, back in the day, when I first started working with Tony, he would take, I think, 6 weeks off in the summer. He had a deal with the Washington Post because of, I guess, the way things get so crammed together during football season and basketball season. He's working more than 5 days a week, that he would have this lengthy vacation in the summer, and he was good enough on radio to have the leverage to say, yeah, I'm going to be off for 6 weeks, and they would say, okay. But now he works, it really takes... I don't think he ever really takes a full week off, not that I can remember. Takes some days here and there, but manages to put out a show at least 3 times a week. So there he goes, still going at it. And we'll hear Tony coming up in about 15 minutes. All right, there's a Mickey Mantle card up for sale. And the numbers for cards, not just run-of-the-mill cards, but the creme de la creme, the high-end cards that are in mint condition and old, the prices are going through the roof. And they have a pristine 1952 Mickey Mantle rookie card. And there are all kinds of stories about the cards from 1952, the surplus being dumped in the river. Who knows if it's true or not, but very few of these cards have survived. And because it's Mickey Mantle and because of the nostalgia that it brings with his name, people are willing to pay huge money. And during the pandemic, cards just shot up. People with nothing to do went through their attic and their basement and they found old cards and started selling them online, and the prices are incredible. So get this. There's an auction going on. It's going to go on for a while for this pristine 1952 Mickey Mantle card. It ends August 27th. They are estimating the card will sell for $10 million. $10 million for a baseball card. I remember when the Honus Wagner card sold for, I think, $100,000, and people couldn't believe $100,000 for a baseball card. And Honus Wagner, it was a tobacco company that put out these cards, and the story goes that Wagner didn't believe in smoking and told the company, you have to withdraw my card from circulation. So there were very few that made it out, and somebody came up with one, and it was in great condition. It sold for $100,000. Now we're talking about a card from 1952, not 1909 like Honus Wagner, but seemingly more recent. It's a long time ago, 60 years or 70 years. I understand that, but still, going for $10 million. Here's part 2 of this. The card is owned by Anthony Giordano, and yes, he is a New Jersey waste management entrepreneur, as it says here, and he bought it for $50,000 at a New York City show in 1991. Now, $50,000 in 1991 for a baseball card was kind of insane. People must have thought, oh, God, this guy's out of his mind. Why would he spend $50,000? Well, he had a lot of money, and he was a big Mickey Mantle fan. He grew up idolizing Mickey Mantle, so that's why he bought the card. But it turns out the card is in such great condition that it can sell for $10 million. And this is Derek Grady, who's quoted in this AP story. He says, the quality of the card is the key. 4 sharp corners, the gloss and the color jumps off the card. And Giordano says, well, it's the right thing to do. My boys and I have had the cards for over 30 years. We've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed showing anybody that's close to me, friends and relatives. I think it's time for somebody else. I think it's also time to collect $10 million minus the fee from the auction house. But that's just, and I have a few cards that are worth a little bit of money. They are not in pristine condition. As the jewel of my collection is the Lou Alcindor rookie card, which is in decent shape, but maybe it's $1,000, if that. I kind of doubt that, but it ain't $10 million, I can tell you. Jim Irsay is a collector. He's a collector of not just sports memorabilia, but memorabilia from the culture. And it's believed that his collection is worth over $100 million. It just shows you the wealth of these NFL owners. He posted on Twitter that he purchased the Muhammad Ali WBC championship belt that he won in the Rumble in the Jungle with George Foreman in Zaire in 1974. And the purchase price was $6.18 million, according to Sports Collectors Daily, one of the highest prices ever paid for a piece of athletic memorabilia. So that's a championship belt, which would seem to be more rare. Muhammad Ali championship belt for $6 million, and then we got a baseball card of Mickey Mantle going for possibly $10 million. I mean, it's just really it's really hard to get your head around that. It's that's really an amazing situation. This surfaced the other day about Nick Saban. Nick Saban, the coach of Alabama, who's won a handful of championships since this happened. But according to the New York Post, there's a new book out called The Leadership Secrets of Nick Saban, and it was written with senior sports editor John Talty. And in the book, it reports that Nick Saban had meetings about leaving Alabama for ESPN in 2014. Now, you'd say, well, with all the success he's had, why would he leave coaching? And he supposedly makes $10 million a year. What would lead him to go to television in 2014, where the salaries were not what they are now? This is long before Tony Romo got $17 million a year. Turns out, as it says in the book here, it was after the famous Kick Six loss to Auburn that led Saban to seriously weigh his options. After they were eliminated from the national championship with the loss in the Iron Bowl, that's when he tried that 56-yard field goal, and it was returned for a score, and they lost the game. Could have gone to overtime, but instead they lost the game in regulation. Saban reportedly empowered an agent to look into this and was thinking about the next chapter in his career and whether media should be a part of that. He then set up a meeting between Saban, his coaching agent, Jimmy Sexton, and Syracuse's athletic director, who was the senior executive at ESPN at the time. According to Talty, the Alabama coach was said to have zeroed in on the possibility of joining Game Day and working with the team, which he wanted to stay on. Ultimately, he decided to stay at Alabama. But that's a great what-if story. You know, what if Nick Saban doesn't stay at Alabama and goes on to television? Will it be the same? Obit. This is really sad. Paul Sorvino has passed away at the age of 83. I think of him in the role of Paulie Cicero in Goodfellas, that the famous scene where Paulie is slicing up the garlic for the dinner that they're having. You know, they're in this minimum security prison, and he's slicing garlic for this big meal they're going to have, and you see it with the razor blade, so it liquefies in the pan. You know, the great narration that goes on with that, and then he says after he finishes cooking the sauce, he says, "We got the vino." He says, "Yeah, red and white. Good, we can eat." Just a great character actor. He was also in Law and Order, and was in a number of movies. In the 90s was really the best decade for him, starting with Goodfellas. He was in Dick Tracy, and he was also in 31 episodes of Law and Order during that decade. But he had a lot of other interests. He's a great singer. And he said in an interview some years ago, he says, "Most people think I'm either a gangster or a cop or something. The reality is I'm a sculptor, a painter, a best-selling author, many, many things, a poet, an opera singer, but none of them is a gangster. It would be nice to have my legacy more than just as a tough guy." Well, that would be nice, but when I think of Paul Sorvino, I think of him as Paulie Cicero in Goodfellas, and I think there are other roles. He was actually a show that I had been watching recently, and I think it's coming back for another season. It's called The Godfather of Harlem, and he plays one of the elderly gangsters in this, and it's a really good show, and I assume that the episodes for the next season are going to include him. I think they've already been shot, but sadly passed away yesterday at the age of 83. And you might find this sad as well. The Choco Taco has been discontinued by Klondike. It's a waffle cone shaped like a tortilla filled with vanilla ice cream, and it has chocolate around the edges of it. And according to Klondike, as they put out in a tweet, they've had to discontinue it, but it's just an unfortunate part of the business that we sometimes must discontinue products, even a beloved item like Choco Taco. And they say, we know this may be very disappointing. Hope you'll try our other delicious frozen treats. I imagine there are people who are devoted to that. It's been a top seller for them, but it's painful, and we're finding it hard to find a way to bring Choco Taco back to the ice cream trucks in the coming years. I guess this is another distribution item. It seems it was sold at Taco Bell, too, in the last 10 years. They had it in 2015 and brought it back for their 100th anniversary. But if you like the Choco Taco and they still have some in the stores, you better scoop them up because they're going to stop making them. Okay, Tony is coming up next. He'll have a show tomorrow as well, and I will have mine as well at 10 o'clock. So I will see you then. Have a great day. We'll see